I'll just try to be in a really nice pose whenever it does.
Right?
Yeah, we had I think we're going. Let's see here. Who's popped on live yet? Let's see.
Hello, Bleeper. Let me open up a window so I don't smoke the dogs out.
That would be all right. So Facebook is there. Let's see here. YouTube. Hello, YouTube. And Twitch is here. Hello, everybody.
All right.
We're gonna do some a quick little thing so they can post out the videos. All right, I'm gonna send these guys a messenger.
I just closed your message, of course.
All right.
Okay, no.
There we go. That should get you right there. I know
All right.
This is amazing content, everybody. There we go. Hello, everybody. It's been a while since we've done an evening show. And as an evening show goes, the same rules do not necessarily apply. We'll talk about real stuff. We'll, talk about a lot of things. But I want to, first let's start with how I met both of you. So Jeremy's story is pretty interesting. And it came at a very interesting place around in my life, actually. I ran into you by accident on Artist Alley at New York Comic Con.
That's how everybody runs into me, by the way. It's completely by accident.
So we live 90 minutes from each other. Joplin, Tulsa.
Yeah.
We meet in New York City,
Right.
It was my first time at something as big as New York, and I kept coming back to your table, flipping through your art and stuff like that, trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to get. And every time it was just a very easy, cool conversation. The first pieces I ever bought from you are right there, over there, back here. That is the Gotham City Sirens double page spread.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of my first ones, and that started what I call your children's college fund.
Right.
And so, and we stayed in touch over the years. You've been here. I've been there. It's been great. We follow all of your stuff. Meghan's is a little bit different because
Stalker.
So what happened is I used to I have this really weird completionist mindset, and I was buying up boxes of cards, like trading cards. Anything with Batman in it, I wanted a sealed box. Anything. So that's going back from 1989 all the way up through whatever. And you did a oversized sketch card and something for Cryptozoic, a DC something or whatever, a Blue Beetle.
Mm-hmm.
So I had all these boxes, and one day I just felt like I'm just going to open one. And I pulled this redemption, and the redemption expired 6 months prior. I'm like, oh, here we go. Send it in anyways. It comes back, and that's how I found your stuff. And then, was it Denver or Orlando where I met you for the first
Denver, because I got the pictures. They just popped up a couple days ago.
So, because for a long time, if you go back to previous episodes of the show, over my head is your red hood banner, and your name
Oh my God.
is above my head like a freaking word balloon.
So many episodes, and I've just spent just staring, just from the way our table was set up, just staring right at Red Hood.
I'm not sorry.
I love it.
So that's how we met for the first time, and then much like Jeremy, I start buying stuff and continually buy stuff. And the two most important pieces in my collection personally are from both of you. Jeremy, we've talked about the piece you did with my dad. Meghan, I'm not allowed to talk about what you did for me because you told me I couldn't.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So, all right. So she did the artwork for my wedding invitations.
Oh,
Which were awesome, by the way.
they were very awesome. I still have them. I won't get rid of them because they're too awesome.
Right there.
Yeah, I think ours is still hanging up, actually.
Uh-huh. I was going through stuff, and I was like, do I really need someone else's wedding invitation? And then I was like, but it's too cool, not cute.
Right.
So, but yeah. So, but that being said, it was. I've bought a lot of stuff from Meghan over the years that even allowed me to even ask that question.
You have pretty much you have the entire set of my first Marvel masterpiece.
Everything but one.
But one. Yep.
I have everything but one. I've got those. I've got some other stuff. I've got some Batman Eternal that you did. I've got a bunch of different things. Joker's
page from Batman Eternal.
Yeah. So some Joker daughters. So
keeper page from the Nightwing issue, the canceled Nightwing.
The canceled Nightwing issue.
My keeper thread.
So that being said, that's how we met. But and I've done business with a lot of different artists, things like that. But honestly, I don't feel like as much of a personal connection as I do with you guys, because we don't always talk about that stuff. Like it's been very cool. So when I found out that Meghan was doing a variant cover for the Beauty and then later the Realm, like I have to have it. And so, Jeremy, tell me how that happens. How do you two connect in terms of, hey, I need a variant cover? Because people who don't I have no idea how you select someone to do a variant cover and things like that. What is that process like?
Well, I think with so many projects, you kind of get, and I like working with everybody, so I don't want to be dismissive, but sometimes you don't get to choose who you work with. You'll be on a project, especially something for the big two, and you'll be doing a book, and whoever's doing the covers or the variant covers is decided a long time before time. And with my stuff, the Beauty and the Realm, my image books, it's like I get to pick my favorite people working in comics. And, I'm trying to remember how long ago we even met Meghan, but I remember
you were still working on the Darkness, I think.
That seems.
And I did Top Cow fan art.
But I remember that thing where to get to my table, I passed your table, and I did that thing where you only get to get up for so many minutes to run as quickly as you can to the bathroom, and then you have to get back because you have more stuff to draw. Mm-hmm. But I kept doing that thing where I was checking out what you were working on every time, and your banner caught my eye. And I think it was one of those things where every single thing that I saw you do, first of all, just kicked ass as it was, but then the next thing got better and the next thing got better. And I think that you do that thing where you see somebody's work and then you follow them on social media, and there's always those people that, we do the quick scroll, right? We do through Twitter or Instagram or whatever it is. You're doing the quick scroll through, but you were always one of those creators that I immediately stopped and was like, I'm going to watch this process piece. I'm going to watch this thing. I'm going to look at this thing. And, when you start making the short list for creatives that you want to have do variants for your projects, you were always on that list for me. I was like, we've got to get Meghan to do one. Please, please, please.
Thank you. Hi, Mark.
I will say one thing we love about StreamYard, more about anything, is the pop-up comments. It's like that MTV, pop-up video.
Right.
Well, actually, no.
I mean, it's been a nice change since we had to change how we were doing things for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
I
definitely the experience.
I love that adult content warning. It's so prevalent. It's
most people who come in and hang out with us, typically our regular shows are very we tend to stay away from that stuff. But anything in the evenings or when we have guests, we don't really like to filter people that much, and so we just give people a warning. And there's a question coming later that requires an adult content warning, just because we know what that is, and so And so, yeah, I mean, I remember when you said they were doing the variant cover for the beauty and stuff like that. I was like, I have to have it. I have to have it. And so that might have been every cover. Well, I say that every cover I own but one is from Mewtwo, because I've got your Star Wars variant, what I call the Boop cover. I've got that. I've got a realm variant and a beauty variant, which is right over here, over there. I still can't get the station yet. And so, and then I've got realm covers and things like that. And so, it is. It's one of those things, like, I talk to different creators and when I go to conventions, and that's kind of going to lead to my next question, is like, when I go and talk to creators at conventions, some are very personable, some are not. Let's just put it that way. And the ones that are the ones I typically buy stuff from. But what do you look like from a convention standpoint now? Like, what do you think the conventions are going to look like now? Because everything this year is gone. Like, Denver's canceled, Texas is canceled, San Diego's canceled. Like, everything is gone. What do you think conventions are even going to look like here coming up in 2022, 2021? Like,
we're both just pulling the worst faces, aren't we, Nick?
You're like, I'm not going.
No, I mean, bluntly, I won't. I have a love-hate relationship with conventions. I love meeting the people when I'm there, but that recovery period afterwards from getting the con crud is hell, because I can go like anywhere and I will get a freaking cold. So now with this, I'll be like,
yeah,
it's just one of those, like, I don't do many conventions to begin with, so I do maybe 1 or 2 a year period, and that's even pushing it most years. But so for me, I'm probably not the best person to ask for that. Jared, I mean, you do a ton of them, don't you?
Too many. Yeah, too many. Yeah. I mean, first off, I think the harder thing really is,
what you doing, Blooper?
Not to get too bleak here, but I don't know what comics are going to look like in the next 2 years. We could talk about it later, but we got news about big changes in distribution this week. We are still trying to figure out systems for how to build and protect comic shops, to support them, how to make sure that smaller companies can survive. I'm very concerned about the industry on the whole. I think we can do things, and I think we're going to be fine. But I think it's going to change a bit.
It's my cousin.
No, yes, actually, I think we should just all be like we should all cosplay as like bubble people, right? Like we're just gonna have those spheres, like a
yeah, oh boy.
So along this topic, whenever masks started being a thing, he is a pilot, so he has a fighter helmet and a mask, and he wore it out.
I've seen I've got some friends in the kink community, and they got very creative.
They were ready for this.
Hey, you can pull it off. Look, have at it.
They're like, we don't breathe in these things anyway. We're fine. We're just yeah.
Who needs air when you have latex?
Right. You look
seriously, I'm just like, they were so happy just to go to the grocery store in their get-ups, and it's just like,
right.
Awesome. I love it.
I have a gas mask collection. It's like this. I have a gas mask collection. So I keep thinking, I'm just like, I should just wear one of these out. I'm like, no.
I was the old school industrial goth kid in high school. Mm-hmm. So I'm very sad that I got rid of my gas mask.
Yeah.
Well, damn it, I should have waited.
It's so strange, like going out now in general. This kind of goes, into the con question, which is, we don't know what conventions are going to look like. They're trying to figure out they don't even know how to bring people in even to the same room, like number of people in the same room right now. And so conventions are, kind of it may be a while, but like you said, going into the comics piece of it, well, before we get there, like not going to conventions, I think I have seen more creators doing stuff like this than I have ever seen.
I was saying, Wizard World does stuff kind of, but they're not creators, but like that's how they've been handling it. It's just a whole bunch of live stream type, like
Yeah. And so like you had Haun Con and Haun Con 2, The Wrath of Han.
Yeah.
And so
I love that.
like
Leprechaun.
and so like I've seen so much more of that, you know, from a creator standpoint, like you wonder if that's the new con, is having interactions with people online. So you had a couple of Han Cons. How did those go in terms of, I popped in and out of them quite a bit, but how did those go for you? What did you like? What did you not like? What do you like about this and not like about this in terms of doing stuff basically just, you know, over video and, you know, between, you know, hundreds of miles between everybody?
I mean, I think that this is the best we can do right now, right? And I mean, I one of the things, you know, talking, you know, not to be too nice, but you know, like chatting with you all is always a joy, right? So I'm happy to do that, and I think that I've been picking conversations to have that interest me, that I'm excited to do. It's people that I like. It's situations that I like. Doing my own thing, I was like, okay, we are people of all the genders who sit in moderately decently lit rooms making things for hours and hours and hours until it basically hurts us even. So we're kind of used to isolation to a degree. But then I think that there's a thing that we need, which is some kind of connectivity. And we all do that in different ways. Some people are like complete badasses on various social media things. They are on Twitter constantly, or on Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is. For me, the thing that recharged my batteries so much was conventions. You know, you talked earlier about the relationship. You know, I got to meet you at conventions. You know, the first time that Megan and I spoke was we met at a convention. Those
Heroes Con.
Yeah, but they're so special, right? Like there's something to that, you know. And like you, I dread the possibility of getting sick, and I find that conventions, especially as many as I do, it's not, you don't lose 3 days, you lose 7, 8, 9 days, and that's, you know, and you don't ever want to sound mercenary about it, but like any convention that you go to, that means that you can't sit at the art table. That means you can't pick up the brush. That means you can't pick up the thing. But we do it for, hey, my cat's here. We can do it for different reasons. You know, we do it because we want to see people. We want to interact. But this thing that we're doing now is close enough, and it's as good as we can have. But, you know, I still miss the casual interaction of somebody walking up, finding my table for the first time, and right, you know, flipping through a book or whatever it is. That feeling is almost impossible to replicate.
The discovery aspect of it, yeah, it's like when the internet was young and you stumbled upon a nifty website and you're like, oh my god, look at this, and you share it out to all your friends through ICQ. Mm-hmm. Dating myself.
Yeah, that's
yeah, the discovery aspect of it is done, but I do think this is likely going to be the new normal for a bit. So, but it's just going to be a matter of adaptation. I do think, like, as long as comics are around, I think comics will be around. In some form or another, comics will be around. I think there's probably going to be a lot of move to digital. I think there's going to be a lot of more indie creators over the next couple of years because the bigger companies can't do it. You're going to see a lot more on GoFundMe. You're going to see a lot more on Indiegogo and things like that. Hell, what Dynamite was doing the GoFundMes or Indiegogos, I think it was. So it's just like companies are going to do what they need to do to survive, but getting into, obviously that's a nice seg into DC and Dynamite, but I think they'll be there. I do think they're going to be a lot smaller. Like, I don't think you're going to see the monstrosity San Diego Comic-Con style stuff anytime soon.
Yeah.
Or New York Comic-Con. I think those are probably going to be done for a while. Either that or they'll be more like Dragon Con is here, where you have like one area here, and you just have a small number of people that can enter into that area at any given time. So like freaking rent out a hotel room and just have 10 people in there at a time,
Texas is talking about doing something like that here with one of theirs, which is like, because their big show, Fan Expo Dallas, got canceled, but they had a couple smaller shows and things like that. And they're talking about doing a much smaller show, a large venue, but they're going to cap attendance pretty low. Mm-hmm. And so like it almost adds this exclusivity to the con thing, which I don't really like that much, because like it's so much fun to, I mean, here's the thing, it's hard enough to get tickets to the big ones anyway. It's like I've struck out on San Diego for almost a decade straight.
I'm a creator and I couldn't get to San Diego.
So we like Denver, Dallas, those, whatever. But yeah, let's talk about this DC Diamond thing for a little bit, just as people do understand. So Diamond was the big distributor. They distributed for Marvel. They distributed for DC. And DC basically just said, guess what, Diamond, I'm done with you. And the story that's going around, and Brandon, who was on yesterday, was telling me about this, is basically Diamond said, here's the thing, DC, I know I owe you money, but let's face it, everybody is screwed right now. Like monetarily, things like that. Diamond's not distributing, no one's whatever. I'm still going to pay you, but it's going to be over a certain number of weeks, increments, or whatever. Allegedly, and I don't know this to be fact, DC didn't like it and said, I'm out, I'm done. And now they're distributing through their own channels, which they started doing towards the end of this COVID thing or whatever, which has a really kind of slimy feel to it anyways, because some of the distribution has very specific links to DC, in which is one of the companies is owned by Midtown Comics, who's responsible for doing all of DC artist comps and all this other stuff, and all these things. And so that's a very interesting move, and most people are blaming it on the merger, the AT&T buying Warner Bros., that whole thing, and trying to figure it out. But as consumers, we see it as like, okay, my comics are going to get on the shelves somehow, some way. Right. But you guys as creators probably have a very different view of this whole thing.
I think Jeremy and I will probably have a very different view also, because I'm not involved with anything besides the artwork. So it's just like, but you have your own creation, your own books that you're putting out that you have to kind of worry about too. But for me, it is a matter of, I do what the company pays me to do at this point with pages and such. So it's like, if DC is paying me, then they're just going to get pages. So I don't feel like I really have necessarily an opinion that matters on this. So it's just kind of like, I don't know, like if the companies aren't making money, if the companies aren't putting books out to make the money, they can't pay the creators to make the books. So you're in this catch-22 situation where it's like, I'm sorry, comic shops, I'm sorry that you're getting the shaft as well, but so are we. It's kind of like there is no easy answer to that situation. It's just like, there's going to be feelings hurt all over the place. There are going to be people dropping like flies. If I didn't have, I just finished a couple pages for DC for a Harley short story. It's like 8 pages, but those 8 pages are going to pay my mortgage because Marvel canceled out Dynamite. They didn't cancel out, but they're delayed. Everything else got shit canned. So my only option right now was DC. Mm-hmm. And thank God, it's just like, okay, now I get to have my roof over my head for a little bit. So it's like beggar for me. I am the beggar that cannot choose. So it's just like, I'm not in a position. I'm an artist. I'm not really in the position to, make these heavy calls. My page rates aren't exactly glorious. So Like, I make my money off commissions and awesome people buying my artwork. So
We're going to talk about those 8 pages afterwards. That's fine. So, yeah.
that wasn't a hint.
I'm just saying.
I'm excited. I heard Harley, and I was like, "Tell me more."
I have to work on it with. Well, you're going to be more interested in this now, Jeremy. I stole Nick for the pages.
Oh, really?
I did.
Is Nick coloring the pages?
Yeah. So,
That's
I'm like, I want Nick back.
So we met Nick in Dallas. He was in Dallas. Super cool.
I love him.
He was so awesome. Now, Jeremy, from the creator side and things like that, like, because when you had to get like the realm off the ground and stuff like that, like, how does this impact you? What is this kind of in terms of what you're doing? Because you've got realms that Red Mother's there. Issue the trade paperback comes out in like a week. In case you need to buy that, everybody. And so, what is it from your side? What does this distribution channel change look like for you?
I don't know. I'm gonna my standpoint on this is probably it's a little goofy. I want to have a comics industry. That's honestly that's all I give a shit about, right? I want to have some kind of industry, but I know that it needs to change. I know it is changing. I know it is morphing. But until we as comics begin to look at things and say, Meghan just made an amazing, perfect point. She has to eat. She has to have a house. She just moved. You just moved house, right? You had bills. You had things you had to take care of. The world changed, and there was no calculating it. This isn't a fault situation. It's not like we can sit there and go, oh, initially this is because of this or whatever. Comics has had issues for 20 years. We're trying to figure out how to do things. We're trying to figure out how to adjust. We're trying to figure out how to take care of the properties themselves, take care of the people that are making it, taking care of the people that sell it, taking care of the fans themselves. And until each of us takes some kind of responsibility actively and looks at this long game and stops saying me, 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 while still needing to say me, 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 because you got to eat.
Right.
We're in for some hard times until we figure out how to work together to make this better.
Is this like Meghan, you mentioned before, like you were talking about the indie creators and stuff like that? Is this an opportunity? I say opportunity because this would be a really rough time to get in, but like you said, for independent people. So, I mean, Jeremy, explain something to me because I've never, like, when you were bringing the realm off the ground and you were starting the realm and stuff like that. If I understand correctly, like when you're doing that, you're covering a majority of the costs initially to bring it up, right? Like that's coming from you, or is that coming from the publisher, or is that a little bit of both?
I mean, it really depends on where you're developing something and how that goes. But I would say that there are a few more options right now in some ways, because some of those have now changed too. But like, let's just take the image model and kind of use that as the example, because that is what we're doing here. So say that Meghan comes to me and says, hey, I've got this idea. I want to write a story and I want you to draw it. And I say, hey, you're cool. I like you. You're a badass. Let's work together on this. Let's flip the script and we're going to do something great. So Meghan and I developed this thing, and we know that it's going to be 24 issues. We take it to Image and we say, here's our pitch. Here's my 10 pages of art. Here's her story. We've got the cover. We've got the logo design. We've got all this stuff. We'd like to do it. And Image says, hey, we like this book. We need 3 finished issues from you. That means that Meghan has to write 3 issues. I have to draw 3 issues. We have to con Filardi into coloring those issues.
You can do that.
He
I
did
got
it. You know, we get a badass letterer, probably Thomas Maurer to letter the thing, and we would do that. But 3 issues, if we break it down, and I think if we're doing this book, let's go ahead and say this: Meghan has to do the covers. So you know, we've got this dream team, right? We have this really fantastic project of us doing this thing together. Well, we have to finish 3 issues completely before we can solicit. So I'm not as fast as I used to be. So let's say that it takes me, you know, if we do the designs back and forth and we talk through it and we kind of put it together, it ends up taking 6 months to design, write, get all this going before we can solicit, because we get those 3 issues done. After that, 3 issues are good to go. We solicit those. You're talking about another, is it 2-3 months before they're like, I can't remember how the diamond cycle goes, but basically it's solicited and then it's a few months before it hits the stands. So you're almost talking 9 months, a year before a book can hit the stands. We do those on spec. Like, that's 9 months of work that we're doing on spec to do that thing. We do it because we believe in the project. We do it because we're going to have returns on this thing. But an incredible amount of work goes into that, and it's us taking a massive risk. You know, and meanwhile, Meghan earlier said she's taken these projects. You know, she took the 8 pages that we're going to pay the mortgage, right? We're working without any kind of backup for a year almost. And I think that's a difficult way to build something. I may have gotten off track. I apologize.
Oh no, this is awesome.
But it's the creator-owned thing. It's like you're building towards something because you believe in that project, and there isn't always a safety net. So when you ask, you know, when somebody puts out a book for 4 issues and then they have to go do something else or whatever it is, there's often a lot of factors behind why we have to do things the way we do. It's not because we don't give a shit, because you know, and I think that now we live in a jaded world where we assume immediately, oh, you don't care. And it's like, no, of course we care. Like, you know, if we could do one thing for the rest of our lives and not worry about feeding our kids or you know, feeding your pet or keeping the roof over your head, you know, you'd do it forever. Yeah. I'm trying to throw in a couple extra shits here and there just to earn that adult role.
I'll cover you on that.
One of our buddies, Jeremy, who's on there, who said it's really cool. He said it's a really cool kind of behind the scenes, kind of behind the curtain. He's really kind of enjoying this. He has started an adult content drinking game, and so Jeremy might be, he might be pretty hammered by the end of this, but. You know, and that's and so, you know, when the Realm was coming up and I had the opportunity to get the artwork for the Realm and stuff like that. Like you said, you believe in something, but all of the work that had gone in ahead of that, like you said, you're kind of going on faith, and you know, I imagine there's a certain amount of reputation that kind of goes with it. They're like, hey, Jeremy and Meghan and Nick are bringing this thing, like. Do we need to pay, you know, whatever? I imagine it would be much harder if it's like, hey, Cav, Nick, and Hannah started this thing and Cav drew stick figures, and like that might be a little harder to
might get sued by what's that one guy? Stick Carl?
Oh, Stick Carl, yeah. And
might get sued by him.
Yeah. So, you know, there's a lot of, you know, it's one of those things that I don't think people really understand from the creator-owned side what it's like in order to do that. And you've done several creator-owned books at this point. And so it certainly has to be scary, but at the same time also, kind of exciting. Like, when the realm dropped and just went, and everybody wanted more of it. Like, it's one of those things. And so, because like right now you're writing on Red Mother, but you're not. Are you doing any art on Red Mother at all?
I'm just doing the A covers for it.
Okay.
Which, honestly, Danny Luckert, who is the artist on it, is brilliant, and I probably shouldn't even be doing the guy. He's so good and brings so much to it that I'm just, it's just vanity for me to be doing anything but the writing at this point.
And so it's, from those standpoints, and admittedly, I have not started the Red Mother yet, but I bought all the issues today on Comixology, so I wanted to get that. So, I just, I think there's certainly people like Meghan and Jeremy too. You have these followings and people who will look at and read and look at anything you're involved in, and I think that has to, you were talking about earlier about the meeting the people and things like that and how that recharges you and keeps your energy up. Certainly I can imagine that, every time you put something out, there's this fan base who's there, who's going to do stuff and watch. And it's always exciting to me anytime I hear you're doing something new, just in order to do that. So now something that you have done, and Meghan, you've done occasionally too, is you've done artwork on Twitch, basically live, just shooting the shit and doing stuff or whatever as people go. I mean, some of my favorite things to do is like, hey, I've got 6 sketch card spots, buy them up. I'm going to do them on Twitch. Like, where, I mean, is that something you like doing? Is that something you just kind of have to be in the mood for? Is that something you just want to? I find it fascinating because
I love doing it personally. No, I love doing it. It's just at this point, my camera sucks. So trying to zoom in on a sketch card that's this big is a little difficult without my head getting in the way because, as Jeremy had said, occasionally you hurt yourself while drawing and my back can't stand this anymore. So I have to be upright at my gigantoid easel.
Oh wow!
And trying to get in. There's my kitchen. Trying to get anything. It's a clusterfuck trying to get the camera to zoom in without my head being in the way and everything else for the sketch cards. But I experimented doing it with the Vampirella painting, the oil painting.
Yeah.
Really think that came off too well because it's an oil painting and most people don't have the tenacity to sit there for 20 hours watching me paint boobs.
Right.
I'm sure there's a group that would, but
there's definitely Rule 34.
Yep, that's it. It's true. And one of the funny things too is anytime, like when you've been doing stuff online and taking pictures or whatever, like you don't understand the color. Like the color never comes through.
You got to see the watch. Like I send warnings. So people that are listening, I send warnings with these things, like a to-do list that I think I've printed out for you like 6 times now of how to care for gouache pieces. And also before I send them out, I'm like, the colors that you've seen through a camera are not what they look like in person. It's not like the green is going to be a pink or anything like that. It's just, they are in your face color. Like the Vampirella piece that I did, it looks like gloss on there. I mean, it shimmers in the light. It's just because that's an oil painting. That's what the layers of oil do. It doesn't pick up on a camera. You need to see this thing in person because this thing is thick and it's just the light goes through and bounces off all the different layers of color. And gouache, I mean, gouache in person is so nifty because it's flat. It absorbs all the light to it. So you go into it thinking, I mean, you've had this experience. You've seen those pinks. You saw it with the DVD piece.
Yeah.
Like,
you said you weren't prepared. You were right.
Like, you don't understand. This is literally a fluorescent. It's a natural fluorescent pink. It's opera pink. It's made from rhododendron pigments. So it is It's a fugitive color. So I'm getting into technical shit. Notice the wall of paint behind me. It's a fugitive color, but which means that over time it will fade. So if you go into like Van Gogh, the sunflowers, how back in the day they were bright yellow and now they're kind of dingy brown, that's a fugitive color. What you don't realize is that in person, those colors, fresh, are blinding. They are freaking blinding. And did you ever get the chance? I did that. I think it was the Phantasm piece for you, right?
Yes. Yeah. And you put
Did you ever get the chance to put that under black light?
Oh, yes, I did.
It literally glows.
Yeah.
So it glows in the dark because of the pigments for this thing. And it's just like, no, it's not acrylic. It's not. It's natural pigments that you can't replicate through a computer monitor. Yeah. So it's just okay. That's my tangent.
That's great. You both have actually done Phantasm pieces for me. I just realized because Jeremy did one too for me as well. And so, it's when you like, you can tell that you get psyched about that kind of stuff. You get psyched about the technical side and Jeremy certainly about the art and the writing and everything. What are your, like, I'd hate to ask for favorites, but like, what are some of the favorite things that you've worked on? Like, if you gave me a top 3 in no particular order, what are the things that, when everything is said and done, what do you hang your hat on?
Jeremy, you go first.
Oh, thanks, Meghan.
You're out,
I never, and this sounds a bit mope-a-dope, but like, for years, I really looked at the covers that other people were doing and always wanted to be a better cover artist. I like it. I mean, not to be too nice, but Meghan, everything you do, I'm like, oh, that's a beautiful single. It's so strong. You look at Tony Moore's covers. You look at Jenny Frizen's covers. You look at so many people out there. You look at these things they do, and consistently they are just beyond gorgeous. And then I kept hearing, oh, you're an interior artist. You're an interior guy. Don't you don't need to do that. But then on my books, whenever I really said, okay, I'm going to draw over 30 covers on the Beauty. I'm going to draw, nearly 20 covers on the Realm. Some of the stuff that I did on the Beauty and the Realm were my favorite things because I grew. The last cover, the final cover for the Beauty, is not like it's a nod to the first cover, and I look at it and I'm like, oh, I figured out so much from this point to this point. And for me, some of the realm covers were so different from the Beauty covers. The Beauty was like one gag, right? It was like I was saying these are high fashion covers, and in the middle of the photo shoot, somebody standing there looking amazing, they died.
Yes,
and so it's these.
They were brilliant. They were absolutely brilliant.
It was a gag that worked, and that's the thing that I always love. It's like if you can figure out how to do something 30 times that feels different and natural enough, but then feels new every time. That's what I was wanting to do. But then the Realm covers were so different because I was trying to channel epic fantasy, right? It was all of those, I immediately want to hide my head in shame when I say that I wanted to try to channel Frazetta or Larry Elmore, all these
Wyatt,
these are big things. But some of the Realm covers really, there's the one with the giant skeleton sitting on top of a building in Chicago.
Yep, yeah.
And then there's one with Ben and Rook. Kind of, there's like weeds in front of them, and they're kind of standing there looking off into the distance, and those for me really were me doing exactly what I wanted to do, but like me feeling like within my skill set and what I can do, those were pure. Those were me doing, you know. And I think a lot of times in our careers we get asked to do things, and we're like, I don't know if you feel this, Megan, but like I constantly am like, oh shit. I don't know how to draw this. I don't know how to make this work. It's like figuring out a math problem that, you know, it's like trying to figure out trig whenever you might have like advanced algebra at best. You know, but you try to do it, and I don't know. So I feel like I hit a spot with those, and I, you know, now I'm moving into new stuff that I am approaching from a completely different, you know, in a completely different way, and everything builds and everything gets a little bit better, and eventually you stop looking at things and hating it immediately. Hey, thanks, NPC spam.
That's Sam. Hannah, is Sam just out of frame?
Yeah, he's next to me over on.
Like her cat typing now.
Can you do like one of these, just like later, just like pat Sam on the head for me?
Over there. Yeah. He doesn't like being on camera, so he's always just further enough away. He can be in here and kind of be part of the show, but not really.
Hey, me too. I would rather not be.
Notice the alcohol. Social lubricant. Who knew you'd still need it in COVID?
It's true.
Saw his hand.
So I'm right with that, Jeremy. With just like I call them my challenge pieces or my firsts. That I tend to want to keep those, and I hoard them like fucking smog. It's like, and every time I've sold one, I regret it terribly. It was I sold it because I needed to, but
did you sell Vampirella? Did you sell Vampirella?
I did not. So she's going in a drawer, and she's staying. And so
I was wondering about like. Yeah, you'd made just a little side comment about I usually keep my first, and I wondered at some point if you were going to keep, because I mean that thing's incredible.
It's I can pull it out and shine it on camera for you, but that sounds terrible. After dark, no. No. So for Jeremy, actually, the cover I did for the Beauty was my first pinup cover. I've never done a pinup piece like that before.
Yeah.
The Realm was my first real attempt at trying to get that Frazetta pile of bodies in there. So that was another one. And the only reason why I sold those were because they were for Jared. So that was it.
Right.
Aside from that, I did a Captain Marvel cover. That is my only Captain Marvel cover I've done. It was also my very first painted cover. And I sold it, and I cried as I was packing it up, and then I got it back. And so that's what the
wow.
Wait, you got it back? Okay, you got it back?
I got it back. Long story, not going into it, but the
interesting
is the swap for it. So I'm doing another painting to kind of get it back to the person who bought it. Eventually, I got to finish that fucking thing. It's been on the easel for a year now. Yeah. And then I have another cover where I got to put my car on it. So it was
is that the Hawkeye cover? Yeah.
And so that thing, I never even thought about selling it. It's just put away. I did a piece
right now.
What's that?
That's my desktop background right now.
Oh.
I did a Conan piece ages ago. That was like my first published piece. And I won like a fan art contest for it. And so that's in there. And it's just like, they're the challenge pieces. They're the, how the fuck am I going to do this? And somehow you're like, I did it. And then it's like, it starts the next stage of whatever you're doing. So, and that's like, now I broke the seal with oil painting. So now I'm okay with doing oil paintings going forward. So now it's like, I know I can do one. Now I can do more, things like that. I'm not going to paint the rest of the Vampirella covers like that. $400 in supplies.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, nope, this thing's coming to me. And I got like some offers on it. I'm like, I'm sorry, dude. No.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I don't think the average person really considers is the cost of the supplies that you guys have to use. I mean, you see artists at tables or sometimes on social media, they have their all of their Copic markers. And I mean, it's like thousands of them, and it's like to wrap your brain around the cost of that alone is insane. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So it only makes sense that the artwork is equivalent to that.
There's a reason they're locked behind a cage at Michael's.
Right.
Not because people.
I thought that was just because people would steal them anyway.
Yeah. So let me.
Some of the colors that I've used they're $140 a tube.
Mhm.
It is just like
Like the replacement is.
that I can pull out the paint. It's an oil paint, but it's a hand.
Oh.
You can do it with Crayolas. Look at Stealth-Freeze.
Yeah.
Yep.
Holy cow!
Fucking genius.
Yeah.
Megan, didn't you do something like here's painting with like a $10 set of Crayola watercolors?
And I'm going to be doing those again. So it's just a matter of because I keep getting the people that are like, I can't do art because I don't have the Copics. And I'm like, don't get the Copics. Get a cheap ass set of watercolors. You're fine. Yeah. I need the Copics. No, you don't.
I did. There's a cover, a beauty cover. I can't remember which one it is. Right at the end of the series, in the last arc, that I did with Bic pen.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I was like, hey, I'm not. I think that some artists get angry and defensive about like stop asking me about my tools, and I understand why.
Right.
But I think the bigger point that we need to make is it's not necessarily like you can have all the tools, but unless you understand them, unless I'm a complete weirdo. Almost everything that I do is with a Hunt 102 Crow quill.
Mm-hmm.
I dip the pen. I do this, and I've gotten to the point now where I used to mostly do organic stuff with it, but now I'm doing buildings and all this stuff, and that's because that makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
You put a brush in my hand, and I'm terrified, and it doesn't quite work right, and it feels weird. But I can emulate almost the same feel with a Crow quill, and so it's use whatever works for you. You can get a Krang set of watercolors that are okay enough, and you can do so much with those.
Yeah, you can. It's seeing. I will be doing one of those budget things again very soon. But yeah, it's the only thing you have to worry about at that point is if you sell the art, I think you need to disclose that it's a non-archival medium. So say the fugitive colors or the cheap art sets. They're cheap because they use dye. They're not using pigment. They're not using natural mineral pigment. Hi, cat.
Is this the new cat?
Everybody's got flirkins these days. What in the world?
Everyone has a flirkin in the studio,
right? He is the asshole cat. But yeah, that the only time I would say that you run into issues with doing art with budget supplies is that if you sell it, I do feel you need to disclose what those supplies are, so that way the buyer can know how to preserve them. Like if you do it on, printer paper and Crayola watercolors, go ahead. You can still do beautiful artwork with it, but the paper's going to yellow unless you have it under archival glass. And there's different things that you need to do just to preserve it. But
I appreciate that you know so much about that and actually can articulate it, because I think that there are pieces that I've bought and I'm like, well, that's weird. It's all yellowed out and strange now, acid burned and all these things, and I'm very, I just do what I do a lot of times, but I appreciate that you have that knowledge set and you can actually really inform people, because it's important and it's something that, especially when they start spending that much money for something, it better be, hopefully it better hold up for a little bit.
that's the reason why I moved away from Copic, because people don't realize Copic are not archival. They are not an archival medium. They are meant to be a crafting supply. They're not a fine art supply. I want to strangle the fucking people that keep insisting that they're a fine art supply. I'm like, no, you can do fine art with them, but they are not a fine art medium, because those pinks, those blues, those purples, those, especially the reds, 5 years from now, unless you have that thing stuffed in a portfolio somewhere, they're going to be faded like you wouldn't believe. You know, it's just like, stupid shits. You're paying $4,000, not from me. You're paying $4,000 for a freaking art, Copic marker piece. It's beautiful for now. Yeah. Not going to be a generational piece. It's just like, I've switched over to gouache. I switched over to oils because my prices went up. And it's just, I want people to, if they're spending and dropping that much cash on something from me, I want it to last. I don't want to be like that person that, 10 years down the line, somebody comes back to me whenever, if ever we have shows again, and be like, you fucked me over. I'm like, sorry. So that's not. And that's why, Jared, you have 6 different copies of the gouache care sheet.
That's true. I want to touch on something I find very interesting is early on when I first started collecting art and talking to Jeremy and things like that, like, I don't understand. My brain does not get around. I spent all this time drawing this thing. I'm just going to sell it. Like,
my problem, my weirdo.
Yeah, the attachment part of it. And then you go on Meghan's side, which was like my first this or whatever. I regret selling everything. And so there's different, like, how do you as an artist put like, because I still struggle with this, which is like, this is like, for something like The Realm and things like that, is like, I have no idea how you would sell like any of issue 1. Like, I can't wrap my brain around it, and it just makes it difficult for me to understand how something like. But if this is, maybe it's different, because this is, for me, this is what you do, and it is a product of your work, and that's, you want it out in the world. But to me, I still struggle with the, I don't want to call it detachment. I think that's too harsh of a word, but
no, I think it's the inaccurate word, because there are some pieces that you do that are product. It's just, I don't know if you feel the same way, Jeremy. Granted, you're working on your creator-owned stuff, so there's probably a very separate mindset with that. But if it's Batman pages or something like that, it's product. I don't really have a personal attachment to it. It's meant to go out. The only stuff I really feel a personal attachment to are the pieces that I feel like I've learned something with. And that's why I jump around with different mediums all the time. But like interior page, like Joker's Daughter, my very first, big book that I did, it was up for sale the same week. It was just like, I kept a couple pages that I really enjoyed. But then after that, everything's up for grab. Like, I kept the ha 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 page all the way through. Just because for me, it was me challenging myself. Again, it's one of those first pieces that I challenged myself with, doing a more graphic look to a page and taking the page as a whole composition versus just like, here's the panels of the story. And that was one of those pages that I learned that I can do that, and I can kind of figure out how to do that. So aside from that, no, it's just, I do it with the intention to sell it if I do it by hand. That's why a lot of my interior stuff anymore I've done digitally, because it's just like, what am I going to do? It's just going to sit in a fucking box. So I just do it digitally and leave it there. So it takes up space in the cloud.
Right. My feelings on it get a little bit complex, because I think that I used, for a long time, I had this thing where it was like, if I could like something for an entire month after I had drawn it, I was kind of in awe. I was like, okay, wait a minute. If I could get to a year and look back at something and be like, oh, that's kind of cool, then I, for me making things, for me telling stories, and that's ultimately what it is. It's me telling stories visually, with words, whatever it is. The art is the story itself, and this is a product of it, right? So I want to kick ass on something. I want to wreck it when I'm drawing it, but then that's a piece of a whole. And so for me, it's it's that thing where it's like I want to draw the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and that's it's like it's never like maybe this God, I hope this isn't anytime soon, but like it's never my last page, right? It's the next thing or the next cover or the next challenge. Each project that I do, I take one thing and I'm like, The Realm was about scale for me. Like that book was about me saying, this isn't medium shot close up. It was pulling back and showing an entire city and these giant spires and these dragons flying way in the distance and all this stuff, which is kind of dumb as an artist to challenge yourself like that. But I also love it.
It gets me pretty
then you get artists that are like, why would you ever do that when you can do, and they do something and it's cooler and ultimately, but I'm weird. I like the things that I like, and there are pieces that get hard, and then like Realm was really the first one. There's some beauty stuff and some Realm stuff where it was like I was like, I don't know, I kind of want to keep this, and I think there was an inherent for a long time I was like, I'm not going to hang a bunch of comic art in my house. Lori's an interior designer, and I'm like, and she was never the person that was like, oh, that's stupid. She was always so supportive and always liked things, but like I think it was a mental hangout that I had where I was like, oh, my studio is my space. I can have I've got a Frank Quitely poster over there. I've got a Mignola piece over there. I've got like all these things, but this is my space that I was like, the house should be for like real art. And then I realized what a jackass and how problematic the fact that I'm using the language that I hate to describe my own stuff.
I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't like having my own artwork hung up in the house. Like if I hang up a piece of my own art is because that piece is extremely special to me. So no, my own art, I have 3 pieces of my own in the house.
And Jeremy, you've been to my house and you say, I'm not going to hang a bunch of comic book art around my house. I feel a little personally attacked. I'm not going to lie.
Well, you should feel, because you know what? If anybody said that about your space or anyone's space, I'd be pissed off. I'd be like, you know what? You have exactly what you want to have. I don't care if your house is literally, wallpapered with 1990s Drakkar Noir ads from magazines.
I can smell that from here, just the description.
That may actually be me in general. That's what I bathe in.
My ex-husband used to basically bathe in that shit, so that's like a permanent set in my brain. Notice like the ex.
I apologize for the trigger that I just did there. Then, but have what you want to have in your space, and definitely that's important. I don't know. I always kind of felt like it was like a band wearing their own T-shirt if I had a bunch of mic around my house.
TCU is flashing in my head like you're gonna wear the same. The shirt to the band that you're going to go see. Don't do that.
That's right. What are you saying? Like, we're wearing our own shirts. What are you saying?
I think that you need to take. I think you need to take it very personally. That aspect of what I said. Jared, Nick. Sorry, buddy.
Hey, I'm totally down for like Slayer wearing Slayer shirts at their concert. Totally down with that.
Yeah,
I got no shame. We get confused for a couple quite often, so it's quite funny.
It's true.
It works out.
And I will say, like, prior to me being married, like, my house was basically an art gallery. Stuff has migrated its way more into the upstairs non-public spaces with a few things that are not. A few things will remain down there, but it is, family photos outweigh Batman most of the time. So, most of the time. I suppose.
Don't feel bad. I have a hallway full of pet pictures. So
I want to get to this. I want to get to this question too, just because this is always a hilarious question. And tell me about your most random commission requests.
Meghan, you go first. You stuck me last time.
no, PG-13. This is the parental warning. So, for folks not familiar with my artwork,
I'll be back.
Okay.
Folks not familiar with my artwork, man, I just turned him right off. I draw. I'm known for drawing a lot of very voluptuous women. So, very.
Like power girl voluptuous? Or like what's the scale?
All over the scale. I think I still have the most hits for the freaking boob tutorial, the how to draw this thing. So that shit is gonna be on my fucking tombstone. I am actually gonna do a high def version of that one of these days, I think. Anyway, I'm known for drawing that stuff. So automatically between that and my personality, I guess we'll go. I get a lot of people who want me to draw some not quite nice shit. We'll just go with that. And I will probably lax on that language in a minute. I have a very, very, very stern line. I don't kink shame at all. Whatever you do, as long as it's not hurting someone else, as long as everybody is consensual, and as long as it's not children. Underline that. I had a whole lot of requests for underage.
Gosh.
And it's just like, you motherfucker, do you realize who the fuck oh my God, like the Teen Titans and like the young characters, and it's just like, well, they look like they're 18 in the comics. I'm like, but they're
Wow.
fuck you, go away from my table.
Wait, they did this in
You do
person?
it in person. It's never people through email that do it. It's people in front of me at a goddamn convention, and they're sitting there and they flip through my book. And I have, Jared, you've seen it. I have pasties over anything that could be even remotely offensive. They flip through it and they're just like, by the time they get to the end of it, they give me this like, look, here it comes. So I just kind of lean back in the chair. I'm like, yes. And it just goes.
Do you just have a no? Do you just have a no sign? Just nope.
I had the stupid question sign.
Oh, I forgot about the stupid question sign.
I had the stupid question sign, and that was a direct response to these stupid fucking questions. And I would charge people for asking every one of these questions, and I would hold them to it.
You charge them $1, didn't you? Something like that.
$1 charge, a $2 charge, a $20 charge, depending on how it went down. And I would donate the money at the end of the show. And it's just like, you stupid shit. Like, they're fucking teenagers.
God.
They're the age of the daughter that is standing next to you. What is wrong with you, you fucking creeper? Like, no. So, hi. I'm Meghan. Don't ask me about kink.
Wow.
And like I said, I don't have a problem. Like, I don't care. If they're adults, whatever, have fun. Like, I genuinely do not give a shit. Whatever, slap a turkey baster, I don't care. Leave kids out of it. The fetishization of children with it is just like, no. Like, I have an abuse background. No, you are asking the wrong fucking person to do this for you. No.
I think we've wrecked Jeremy. We've wrecked Jeremy. So Rocktimus is Jeremy, is our friend Jeremy, not Jeremy Haun. So he's our friend. So yeah, he's gotcha. That is okay. Okay, so let's flip that on. Let's flip that on its head real quick, and then we're gonna get to Jeremy on that. Like, what has been the most like I would say random like commission requests that you're like, oh, that might be awesome. That might be fun. That might be something that never really popped in your head till somebody asked you.
I don't really get a lot of them. Like I don't. If I'm drawing a character, I get Black Cat a lot, and Phoenix and X-Men characters, and from you I get like Batman stuff. But
true.
I don't
This shocks nobody.
Random requests. I have a very narrow pathway for requests. Like that Wonder Woman was my 4th or 5th Wonder Woman of the year. Wow. Like it's Wonder Woman and Emma Frost, seem to be my bread and butter. Yeah. And Phoenix. I get a lot of Phoenix. But no, I don't really get random stuff. I did get one random one that I'm not going to call out because it would sound like I'm kink shaming. I'm not. So I'm not going to call out that one. Mary Marvel. I got a Mary Marvel, and she was a blast to draw. So the Captain Marvel, Black Adam, Shazam family, I fucking love them, and I never get the chance to draw them because people want boobs all the time. And nobody expects me to draw this like innocent shit. It is just like, no, I enjoy drawing that, Yeah.
Jeremy, what about you? Random commission requests, and then also just fun, like kind of surprising commission requests that you had a blast on.
I have been, especially as I don't know, it's because I am a grumpy looking dude with a beard. Maybe people don't ask me. I do think that with there's a weird thing having so many friends that are not just big ugly dudes in comics. Women are asked to draw shit sometimes, and you're like, are you asking them to draw this because you want this thing, or are you asking them to draw this because you want them to be uncomfortable? Because
that's exactly it right there. So when my ex would go, so my ex is like 6'4" and 300 pounds of muscle. When he was sitting next to me, I never got those questions. But when I'm by myself, boy, did I get those questions quite a bit. And it's just like, you motherfucker, I know what your game is.
And I think that in general, I feel that I like to feel, I hope to that conventions have become a much safer space and much more respectful as time's gone by. You still know that shit goes on. People are still stupid. Right. People are stupid. That's sometimes how it is. But,
said it this time.
But we also have remarkably consistent, respectful fans, wonderful people that but there's just always somebody that's wanting to go and be disrespectful, and I don't have time for that. And you have delightfully made a career out of not letting people screw with you, and I love that. Because how about just don't say that shit to people. A lot of what I've been asked to do, there's the people that come by and they ask you for just strange things, and you're like, why did you think of me for this particular thing? You've seen what I draw and how I draw. How did you come up with this bizarre side tangent of whatever? I think that my weirdest stuff also falls into the stuff that's been the most special, the most delightful that I've worked on, and that's when people ask for incredibly personal things involving their families or an event going on in their lives. And honestly, I don't again want to be too nice to you, Jared. Like the biggest honors of my career as doing commissions has really been situations where you asked me to do that piece of You and Your Father. When I drew a piece featuring a couple as Maggie and Kate from Batwoman, she was literally asking her to marry her with this that I did.
That's awesome.
those things, like I watched that happen. You know, I saw your face when I gave that piece to you. I saw your, you know, I recently did a piece. It was a memorial piece for a grandmother, and she always wanted to be on The Price is Right, and so she had passed away, and it took me forever to get to it, and I will not. I'm not going to lie. Nothing makes me more nervous than being asked to do these special pieces, because I feel the power of those pieces. I feel what they mean, and I know that like I can never draw your partner as beautiful as they are. I can never fulfill. I can never fill the space of the memory of that person you loved, but I'm going to try. And, you know, sometimes I've been asked to do stuff and I'm like, no, that's silly. Like, I can't, you know, I can't draw your, you know, mean looking kid over there, you know, acting nice or whatever. But then there's other things I'm like, I think I can make it work. And I'm always honored to do those.
Those are awesome to do. So they are very, very special moments. So
yeah, I think because like I had on purpose with that piece of my dad, like I saw it ahead of time. You asked and I saw it, but my mom had not seen it. And so my dad had gone with me to New York the year before, and then he very suddenly passed away after New York Comic Con. And so the next year I took my mom, and my mom didn't really know what was happening. And so I took it over there. She says hi, by the way, Jeremy. So
your mom is wonderful.
Yeah, and so and that's one of those things too that I think also why we keep coming back to talk to you and stuff like that is like you had this very kind of like anchor point in my life, which I find very cool because, you know, as a kid who was growing up reading comic books and enjoying them, and then as an adult going back to them and enjoying them and understanding the piece of it and the art and stuff like that, like for me to say like, yeah, I know a comic book artist, to me, like, I think that's pretty badass. I'm not gonna lie. Like I had somebody who did, you know, covers for, you know, this and this, do my freaking wedding invitations. Like, who gets to say that? Like, and so, I mean, that's certainly a credit to you guys and how you interact with your fans, that they feel comfortable enough asking you to do those things. That's, you know, I'm not going to walk up to, you know, anybody else and ask like, hey, can you do this? Like, it's whatever. Like, they're going to look at me like you look at people when they ask you those weird questions for commissions. And you're like, what? Who is this guy? Like, that's what it's going to look like. But, you know, for those, you know, and that's why I think you've got people who, you know, who follow you everywhere. This is, I want to put this back up here again. This is an amazing, amazing idea, which is when they start collecting commissions, they basically have a list of 10 characters, and I leave it up to the artist to draw whatever. I leave everything else up to the artist. Like,
he is awesome, by the way.
And so,
awesome to work with.
And so, yes, my fanboy face is glowing. I understand. That's, you know, when someone comes up to you for a commission, do you want them to say, I want Wonder Woman like this, and this, or I want Wonder Woman and you figure out the rest? Like, what is your
if they have any, you know, because everybody now wants the fucking Rebirth costume with all the piping and stars and everything everywhere.
Right. I tend to ask, like, is there a specific costume variation that you want? And then is there like a almost more like thematic feeling thing? Like, you know, because I mean, we all have tiers for our commissions, right? Like, you know, a bust is this much, a full figure is this much, multiple figures is this much. And, you know, you still try to do cool stuff to entertain yourself along the way, so that it's not just like person's, you know,
Batman head.
Standing,
Batman head.
But I kind of, you know, I've found as time's gone by that, like, even your price gets a little higher for stuff because that's the industry and that's what you need, and that's you need to survive and all those things, and you start seeing stuff on eBay selling for much, 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 much higher than you asked for it originally. Either it happened recently. Your prices kind of go up, but then I have a guilt because I'm like, well, now my price is this, so I need to do better. I need to do more. I need to add things. And it's, I think it's both my obsessive compulsive nature that I want to draw and draw and draw buildings and windows and but
my color are bricks. I will draw every fucking brick on a building.
Yeah.
I think Jeremy has cursed bricks more than once in our conversations. lots of bricks and lots of cross-hatching.
The pilot parallel pens are fantastic for that. It's just like brick, 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 brick.
Yeah. I was having dinner with Scotty Young, and we were talking about work and like doing covers and all this stuff, and he's just like, man, why the hell do you have to draw every damn window? And I was like, yeah, and now every time that I'm doing some elaborate escape scheme, I hear his voice just like, why you got to draw those dumb windows, man? It's ridiculous.
It's like it's a signature of your art, though. So at some point, it just becomes this kind of like almost Jeff Darrow-esque obsession with detail. And it's just become a signature of your art, so people know what they're getting into.
Right. There are a couple of fairly significant Scotty Young fans in this room right now. So they're like, I just had dinner with Scotty Young. Like to you, that is no statement. Like to some of us, you're just like, seriously, you got to sit down and have dinner with Scotty? Like, really?
Like, don't make it weird. Don't be like, what did he eat?
What does Scotty Young smell like?
Well, hey, while we're on the topic, what did he eat?
That would be actually a fun question for a different show. It's like, what is your, like, for the folks behind the table that go to the conventions, what is the moment you had a fangasm, basically, like that you got to meet somebody, they're like, oh my God, I'm meeting this person. Because we see it all the time. No offense, guys, but we see it all the time from folks on the opposite side of the table.
Yeah.
You barely hear about it from like the creators and such, that they still have the fangasm moments. And we're just like geeks for this one.
Yeah.
But it's
yeah, all of it. So I mean, one thing we didn't talk about when we scheduled this is how long this was going to go. So I don't know how much time you guys have. We could go for
to let my dogs out. So.
If you want to do that, like I don't want to keep you, but also if you want to hang out, like I'll stick around until you're done. So.
I live alone with cats and dogs, so talked all week. We're fine.
I actually had a thing that I kind of wanted to ask Meghan about, if you don't mind me taking
a
question. Okay, so you're working on the Harley Quinn story. You've been working on that. And you talked about that this industry right now has changed in a big way. We both talked about that. We're all talking about that. We've all dealt with pencils down on projects. We've dealt with trying to figure out how to adjust, trying to figure out how to, in a time where books were not coming out, on a personal level, reach our audience. And we're all doing, if you're doing commissions or pieces or, whatever it is. I guess, what all are, that you can talk about? What are you working on right now? And then B, if that doesn't completely encompass it, what are you working on right now that's for you, that is important to you, that is, I have a few things right now that I think are identifying what kind of creator I'm going to be over the next 5 years.
Mhm.
I just kind of wonder, like, what are you working on, and then what are you wanting to be?
So right now that I handed off the Harley stuff, I have nothing besides a couple covers from Dynamite that are now back on the schedule, and my cat just fell off a table.
Cats do that, yeah.
But no, I have a couple commissions that I need to finish up. More than a couple commissions I need to finish up.
Yeah.
But aside from that, nothing. Literally nothing. So that's why the Harley book has saved my ass, because everything else that I was slated to do got canceled because of the coronavirus. So that's why I'm not sorry for the fact that I'm still working with DC. I'm very grateful for the fact that DC is still willing to give me money. It's just like, okay.
Don't be sorry for that. Don't be sorry for that either. Like anybody that talks to you like that is not listening and not. I mean, that's not the way the world works.
They don't have insight into the back end of it, is all that I can really say with that. It's just like they want their thing. They want to have a high horse about these things, but they don't have the real life experience of being in the trenches with this stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of like, it is what it is, guys. People are going to need to do what they need to do to survive. Welcome to America 2020. It's how it is.
And I think there's a piece of this whole Diamond DC thing that we may never know. Mm-hmm. Like there's pieces that and I mean, DC's taken a lot of heat over this whole thing, and a lot of retailers in particular. Like I said, it's going to hurt the retailers because their discounts are based on volume with Diamond, and they just lost 30% of it. Mm-hmm. And so like this is this overreaching thing, but like I think the crosshairs are squarely pointed at DC, but you have to understand DC has other masters now that they didn't have before.
Right, they can afford to take a risk.
And this industry has bigger issues than like you said, we're seeing a very small part of this.
Right.
You never. I mean, especially when you start dealing with corporate politics. Diamond is an entity. Right. DC is an entity. You think the blurb that you get from whichever place, is gonna tell you about everything that goes on behind it. No, it doesn't. And
right.
And as the people that make things and survive making things, if you want to do a story for somebody, unless you feel personally incensed that this is happening, I mean, if somebody's got a problem with it, I'm terribly sorry, but I have mouths to feed. You got pets to feed. You got stuff to do. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's just one of those, like, it is what it is, guys. It's you would do the same thing in this situation. And you can't tell me that you wouldn't. Period.
Oh, yeah.
Like, morals are nice until you're put up to the line. Then what do you do?
Well, I think. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, I'm good. I'm good with that one. But yeah, so Harley was the last of it for that stuff, and I got a couple covers through Dynamite to still do. In fact, I'll be doing one after we get off of here. But aside from that, nothing. So it's a nice lead into the next question was, what am I doing for myself? Is I'm still getting my own shit going. So I like to write, like to draw, and I've had my own project put on the back burner for way too long, and now is the perfect time to do it. Uh-huh. So it's just like I will be going probably. It's like, this is not meant to be a plug, but it's going to sound like a plug. I'm giving it away first, and then from there I'll be doing it like installments through Amazon or however I need to get this out. I'll get it out. So it's just because my schedule is kind of all over the place, and I don't know, going back to what you had said about the image model, I don't have the financial security to be able to take 6 to 9 months to be able to not have an income. So it might be like 3 pages this week, 4 pages next week, and then I need to take a break for a month to be able to do pages for somebody else that will actually get income in. So, and I don't want to have to hold to a schedule that I can't meet at the moment.
Right.
So it's just like I'll be doing it for my patrons and a couple people here and there. And then when I get enough pages, I'll print it out and give it out to people. But at that point, you know, hopefully I get my shit straight a little bit better.
Right.
Yeah, no. So it's a matter of I've had this idea floating around in my head for years. It's been written for years. It's just a matter of finding the time to draw it at this point. So, because I'm doing writing, pencils, inks, colors. Only thing I'm not doing is editing and lettering. So
yeah.
Wow. It's a lot of work.
I'm not known for doing things small scale.
It's our curse. It's our curse.
You draw every brick in every window in the city, and I'm just like, fuck it, I can do this. Like, oh, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. When's the due date? 2030? All right, I might have it by then. We'll see.
So Jeremy, same question to you. I know you've got some stuff that you're kind of working on, some black and white stuff. You talked about some Afghan type stuff, which I mean, you know me, black and white all day, every day. Like that's,
your line work is fucking stunning, dude. So
well, thank you. I'm driving myself nuts with it because I'm like, is this like when it's your own stuff? When it's your own stuff and there's not really a hard deadline, when do you stop? When do you put the pen down?
How precious can you get with this?
Yeah. It's like, oh, this needs a little ink spray. Oh, wait a minute. How about some thumb stamping? Oh, I could go in it. And then you're like making new shit up to do. You're like, I think it would be really cool if I, so this weird product, and it gets ridiculous. It's a silly way to be, but
you're Frankenstein.
Yeah. Well, it's I mean, we have to make things, right? And it's it's magic on the page. I like so many people with this, and I first I want to preface this by saying there's no way that companies could have expected what happened, right? They had their slates. They were so happy to have a Meghan Hetrick cover or whoever, they knew what their slate looked like for a year.
Right.
And then this happened and they had to say, hey, Jeremy, like, I know that we're scheduled to do this book. We have to hit the pause button right now. Right. And I've been lucky that most of my stuff was the pause as opposed to a full on, we're not doing this. Mm-hmm. But still, it's hard, right? Especially when you start thinking about that, like, conventions are a quarter of your annual income as a creative. We're not getting those. Mm-hmm. This project was maybe half of your annual income. That's not going to happen for at least a quarter, probably longer, 6 months, maybe. But the pause button was really hit on a lot of my projects. Mm-hmm. I was working on getting ready to start the third issue of Final Witness for Valiant. It was a 5-issue series, and basically we all want to get back to it. We're all excited about it. Valiant is very, very excited to get to it, but it's having to adjust, right? It's having to build back. I found myself in a weird place where I was writing more than drawing all of a sudden. Cover projects dried up. My interior projects dried up. But Boom with the Red Mother was like, we're going to stand behind this, we're going to stand behind our books. We're not hitting the pause button. We want you to keep going. We're going to use this time, get a little bit ahead. We also know that it's hard to work right now. We don't know. So they were very, very supportive. They really, really kept us going on the Red Mother. I have a Comixology thing. Man, I'm probably not supposed to even say that. I've got a thing. That I'm writing and a great, fantastic artist is drawing. That I think we just agreed is going to come out earlier than we even thought. I think it's going to come out start coming out in July. So that's exciting.
Very-
But I found myself in a place where I was drawing much, much less and writing a lot more. And that's exciting to me. It's been weird and it's been hard because I'm used to sitting down at the table for 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a day, just ruining my back and neck like you were talking about. I need to figure out how to get some sort of better system in place. Hopefully I can do that. Probably need to probably that, yeah. Because I'm
85 years old.
well, I'm a middle-aged white dude, so I don't have a butt. I don't know. It's terrible. But so I'm just sitting on bones on a hard. It's rough. But you know, it really for me, I had to adjust. I had to figure out like how to start, just truly start drawing again on stuff that I wanted to work on. And I had to figure out what that was going to be like. I love short stories. I love short fiction. And so my thing was like, I was doing Comics and Cocktails was my Patreon.
Mhm.
And I was doing like a drawn cocktail recipe. It was this hands down looks at me making drinks. And my schedule had gotten kind of hard and I was behind on those. And I was really kind of angry at myself for not making more time to do this thing I wanted to do. And then this happened and I'd already been thinking about it anyway. And I was like, I need to make sure that my Patreon has more comics in it, more comics in Comics and Cocktails, truly making it about process and showing people, hey, here is content in a time where there is not content. Personally, you can go, you can throw a few bucks at this thing and you can get extra stuff in a time where you can't get anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, well, I'm going to tell short stories. So I'm going to do 3, 4, I got a couple, basically 1 to 7 page short stories. They're all black and white, unless I decide to get a wild hair and do one color or something like that. But I like the system of black and white. I like telling things with that, chiaroscuro. They're still overly detailed. It's still ridiculous, but you're getting this look at these stories, and it's all me, right? It's me writing it, like you're talking about. It's me writing it. It's me penciling it and inking it, and it's me lettering it. I'm not doing the color, but all of that other stuff's there, and that's kind of been what I've been doing. And I am stupid, so I just thought it'd be funny to call it the Haunthology. Because
of course.
Well, I mean, it's like it's
You had the last name, use it.
You have to.
It's so dumb. Like everything lately is like HauntCon. I'm like, well, I'm gonna brand this. I'm just gonna keep going.
Branding.
Yeah. What is that? But,
I don't know how old you are, but do you fall into the millennial category? Because if not, you're honorary.
I think I'm super old to be a millennial, but yeah, I can be now. Yeah. But so I'm doing these things, but very much like what you're talking about with your story is this is me doing something for me, and hopefully it builds into, right now I'm just releasing these shorts on Patreon every other week. I completely finished 3 of them. The first one's out. And I'm going to do them on there. And then I think once I get 100 or so pages, I'm probably going to collect them, and I'm probably going to put them out. I don't know, maybe on a digital platform, and then maybe do a hardcover Kickstarter project or something like that. It's a weird time, and I think we're having to figure out the pandemic chronicles. Okay, Sam. Seriously,
You get to happen for that one.
yeah, you're hired. Yeah, we're working together. I'm going to have you subtitle everything now.
You have no idea. Like, Sam is the hidden gem of this whole thing. Like, he rarely ever shows up on camera. Occasionally he does. But his commentary and some of the graphic, like the logo behind us, like that's him. And so he's like this whole like he's our super secret hidden guy in the background that does a bunch of amazing stuff. So
he is Oz.
He really
I was
is.
just gonna say, is he the man behind the curtain?
I mean, Hannah aside, I've met the other two of you, and I know how you are. So I know that this. I know all of the charm in this is Sam and Hannah.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
You're not. Here's the thing. You're not wrong.
No,
like you're. I mean, there is a. When we go back and we look at like the previous shows and stuff like that, which is like me and Nick and things like that, like it worked, but it didn't. Like there was a piece missing, and then we brought our buddy Church on. And then we brought Hannah on, and when we brought Hannah on, everything clicked together.
You just
absolutely
violently shout things every now and then.
That's true. And
Church just derails us all the time.
Yeah,
I mean,
Church.
That's like his thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know me well enough to know that, like, typically, like, I have an agenda, and this is, I'm very kind of going down or whatever. And Church is the guy who takes it 9 miles the other direction. And then we'll make some random comment, and about a few hours later, here's Sam with a Photoshop of like this whole situation or whatever. And so, I mean, some of the best stuff, the best stuff in this show comes from somebody who is never seen.
So, I think he's only been on there twice,
maybe twice.
Yeah.
So,
and that was at your house. It was whenever we were still in that room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Sam is working on a Photoshop of this right now, right? Like, amazing.
Oh,
well, he
sure.
Hold on. Let me show
For
you one
sure.
of his other comments, which was we were talking about the family photos. Where did he go? There we go. We can Photoshop Batman into your family photos. So it's somebody posted about Steven posted about your first story. A lot of bricks and windows.
Yeah.
Jeremy, now you just need to. Well, this is probably timely, but sadly timely. Just have a lot of bricks and windows. But
yeah.
Well,
we talked a lot. That was one of the things about this project for me, and it's more about the pandemic itself and about kind of before some of the other terrible stuff that we're dealing with. Really, the stories are very much about what our world is going through right now, and personally what I'm going through and what we're all feeling. They're stories about fear and loneliness and so many of the things that without being about that thing, right?
Right,
it's not really pandemic stories. They're monster stories or alien stories or whatever it is.
Modern day fables.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I don't know, and thanks, Stephen. Stephen's been there supporting the project from the beginning, and we have a lot of conversation back and forth about these things, and it's been, for me, I'm not getting to go to these conventions, but that interaction, making something and then immediately having somebody read it and respond to it, it's been a fantastic way to do this. It's been exciting.
It's, for me, my saving grace has been, so for my Patreon, I have a Discord chat set up. And in the Discord chat, we share artwork. I'll give critiques. Like, everybody is just fucking awesome in that Discord chat. So it's just like, it is kind of like having that little bit of the convention banter at times, because people come in and initially they're just like, hi, all shy, and it's adorable. Right. I love all of them. And then by the end of the week, they're just like, this is me. It's my art. And I do monthly. It's been tough for me to manage these the past couple months with everything going on, but I do monthly challenges, and we'll do line of action, going through line of action and animation studies and figure studies and how to draw things studies. And I've got a storytelling study coming up, just breaking things down for people, and just having that interaction. It's been a godsend. It just, like you had said, just having that just conversation with people about things. It's just been nice. It's been very nice.
I think this is as much for us as it is for fans. It's this feeling like, oh, wait a minute, we get to hang out with you too. We get to have these things. I love my family dearly. We haven't killed each other yet, but the interaction that we have here like this has really kind of meant the world to me, and it's definitely, it may not be convention level of charge, maybe smaller bursts, but it's it's keeping me going and not keeping things from getting too dark, I guess.
Right.
So it hasn't been burned into everybody's brains. Their Patreons have been scrolling across the bottom of the screen for the last hour and 45 minutes. I want to do a couple, if you've got time for a couple quick more questions, we wrap this up. I want to kind of end these things on kind of a positive upper higher note, which is one, thank you for doing this. And anytime you guys are up for doing this, just like call or text me or whatever, like we will do this anytime you want. I try not to I don't want to feel like I'm asking too much and ask for it all the time. And so, but when the thought came in my head about getting you two together, it's like, oh, we have to make this happen. So a couple, what are you watching, reading, anything like that these days that you can recommend to people? I mean, it could be Netflix, it can be anything. We lost Nick. Oh, and he's back. What are you reading, watching, stuff you've seen on TV, stuff like that? What can you recommend for entertainment purposes during this time?
For me, this is gonna sound ridiculous. So I don't really watch much of anything anymore because my nose is always buried working on a piece of some form or another.
Right.
I fell in love, and my Brit friends are going to laugh their asses off at me. I fell in love with the fucking Time Team shows. It's just,
what is this?
Time Team. It's like 20 seasons of old dudes going through and digging in people's backyards in the UK, just digging up UK history. And it's been the most fucking charming thing I have watched in years, because it's just, you learn at the same time about I love history. Like I love history. And it's just neat because it's not like they're the nicest individuals. I mean, they're sitting there and they're just that UK humor of just pecking at each other, taking the piss out of each other the entire time. But it's just fun, and it is charming, and it is just a nice bit of
Sam with the link.
Sam already had it.
What's that?
Sam with the link.
Right there.
There you go. It's on I stumbled across it initially on YouTube. So most of it is on YouTube, but then Amazon Prime has almost all of it. And I sat there and I'm just like, I love this shit. I went through, not kidding, for 2.5 months of nothing but this show for like 8 to 10 hours a day while I was working. And it's just like, and I still haven't seen all of them.
The thing I love about like British humor is that in Oklahoma, we don't understand it, just like everywhere else in the United States they don't understand it. So you can totally watch it with a kid in the room and it's okay.
Right.
Like nobody gets it. It's cool. Yeah. It's totally awesome.
They're never like dirty with one another. They're never super rude, but there's a whole lot of drinking jokes because it's the UK. And it's also it's just fucking charming. It's just like, look at this rock. Isn't this rock awesome? And it's just like, this piece of tile comes from Henry VIII's lost, court. And it's just like, they're losing their mind over this tile. And I'm like, I love you. I love you, you 80-year-old man that's out there in the most hideous sweater I have ever seen in my life. I love you. Like, his hair just goes poof. You are a professor of cartoon imagery. Like, it was fantastic. So it was, honest to God, the only thing. So I won't go into it on here, but it's Jared and a couple people who follow me know this year has been hell.
Yeah.
And it has kept me sane-ish for as much as anything can, because it was just a nice little relaxation of going through. Like, the world is melting around you, but you know what? It's melted a couple times. Here's stuff from the Black Death. Here's stuff from the Civil Wars. Here's stuff that, from all the, thousands of years of revolutions. It's happened before. It's going to happen again. At some point, we're going to get through it. And at some point, there's going to be an 84-year-old dude wearing a hideous jumper, digging up our shit and going, what the fuck is this thing? How many
This is an original iPhone.
Right.
This is back when they only had 4G. Now we're on 19G.
What's a G?
Yeah.
So it was a nice little. So you get like the overall just like charming fluffiness of it, but then it's also just a nice little reminder that life does go on. It does continue. People survive. You figure out a way. So it was nice.
So I'm about to blow your mind. Apparently, there's 2 seasons of Time Team America.
Oh shit!
It's,
I want to know American history. We're living it again.
This has been posted in one of our other chats or whatever. So that's pretty amazing. Did you also, before we get to him, did you also say that you've been to the Last Kingdom?
Oh God, I love that show.
Oh yeah, see, I'm with you. We'll talk about that offline. Like 100%. Last Kingdom's amazing.
Bring him. Hetrick.
Last Kingdom.
Get over there. Don't come with me too much.
Jeremy, what are you watching, reading that you are enjoying?
I'm my queue, so I'm going to get to that. So we'll be able to all talk about that soon.
Yes.
So I'm going to go a little dark, and then I'll come back up. Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough.
So about a week ago, I started watching Watchmen.
Oh.
Wait, the HBO
TV
series?
Uh-huh. And
couldn't have picked a worse time.
Everyone in Tulsa were like, ugh.
Yeah.
I did not choose the proper time to take a swig of coffee.
Sorry, Megan. No, so here's the deal. Sometimes you really try to stay away from something because you're so excited about it, right?
Right.
You're like, the new Star Wars movies, I'm so excited about them. I'm not going to watch the trailers. I'm not going to do anything. And usually you screw up on some level. Somebody's like, hey, this happens. And you're like, oh, man. Okay. I saw the promo images of a couple characters from Watchmen. I knew nothing at all about Watchmen. I knew that it was fantastic. I knew people were excited about it. I had no idea how that first episode starts out. And I was literally watching. First of all, we live right by where all of that shit went down. And, I started watching it as I was having to turn off Twitter because it was so upsetting to me. And then I turned this on and I'm like, oh come on. Like this, but I will say, having finished it, what a perfect show. What an amazing show. What a show that really spoke to the problems with our country 9 months early,
Right. A little bit prophetic right there.
Oh, yeah. Incredibly so. I think that perfect season, it's not really a season, the perfect mini series is going to stand the test of time as something absolutely special. They had no idea what they were building to culturally, but they did.
Perfect compliment.
I don't know how
in that mindset. Where it's just like when the comic was released, they had no idea the cultural touchstone that it would become. And now this show, I'm right there with you. Like, this show just encapsulates it perfectly. Yeah.
Well, that first episode deals with something that many people, well, all of us in this chat never learned about in school.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not taught. You did?
I had a
Hannah went to a better school than I did, I guess.
Well, here's the other question of that.
A very small paragraph.
How old is everybody?
Right. Well, but that's it. Yeah.
That's the other question right there. So it's just like, how old is everyone? Because I think past a certain point, they started teaching it in schools because enough time had passed where it's like, it's not that big a deal anymore. Motherfucker. Yeah, it is.
They are just now in the process of getting that curriculum created.
Right.
So that way that students coming up through school will be able to learn about the race riots and what happened and Black Wall Street.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of a neat thing because prior to Watchmen coming out, years and years ago, I used to do graffiti and that kind of stuff. And so I'm still really into street art and graffiti. I think it's a beautiful art form. And so one of the guys that's local that I always admired his stuff, never met him personally, just would see it, loved it. He actually got a commission to do a Black Wall Street memorial wall. And it's literally right there. I mean, it's just in Greenwood. It's beautiful. And so I think part of that show kind of furthered the conversation locally in some capacity, which I think is good, So I just wanted to throw that in there.
No, I mean, I think I had studied the events. I knew about Black Wall Street. I knew how horrible it actually was. But I didn't learn about it in school either, and I think that we absolutely need to. And even my son Ethan's 15, and I kind of wanted to watch it on my own first because he's interested in watching it. He's all over, everything right now. And I was like, no, this is important. I need to show this to him. And we actually ended up having a lot of conversations about that, even leading up to, me starting to watch it with him. It is perfect commentary. So the other thing, the high point, if I went low, if I went dark, I started watching Schitt's Creek finally.
I love that show.
I would do.
Like every time they bring up anything that's like, where are you guys watching? I'm like, I'm on my 7th rewatch.
Right.
Let me tell you what I missed last time.
Can anything be more gleefully perfect right now than just watching,
Yes.
5 seasons of just the faces that David makes? Pretty much I want to live there.
Yes. And the faces that Johnny makes whenever anyone says anything and he's just so confused. He's just like, I don't even know how to respond.
Everybody's chiming in.
Oh, Chat's blowing up about Schitt's Creek.
My masks for when I go outside, it just says, ew, David.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No, it's fantastic. We Lori watched it, and she doesn't ever watch anything. Like that's just she is constantly more into historic restoration, working on designs, all this amazing stuff. She's a badass. But we were talking about, she's like, yeah, I've been at night before bed watching 2 or 3 episodes of this show. And I'm like, what do you you don't watch shows? What are you talking about? She's like, I just watch it, when I get the chance. And I'm like, well, how much of it did you watch? She's like, 5 seasons. And I'm like, okay, we've got to, and I'm like, I want to watch this now because she never watches anything and she finds it hilarious. And I'm like, I'm hearing everybody talking about it, but the fact she's talking about it, I was like, okay, I'm going to check it out. And we, we were just hanging out, and we're like, okay, we're gonna put this on. We'll just watch an episode or two. And like 7 episodes later, we're like, she's like, she actually said, she's like, I'm falling asleep. I'm not going to be able to, I can't do anymore. And then she goes, let's watch another episode. And then she's just laying there laughing the entire time. And then, then she's like, yeah, we can only do one more episode. And I'm like, okay, like, but you get it. It's just that fun and funny. And I love shows that you can take, and in the first 2 episodes, you can be kind of like, they're funny, but I don't really like anybody. And then the 3rd episode hits, and you're like, I love them all. I want to live it. I want them to be my best friends. And it's perfect.
I mean, they are terrible starting out. And you're just like, I don't feel bad for you guys. You're all awful.
Yeah.
And then you get to know them and the rest of the town, and you're like, okay, well, at least you know you're awful.
Right.
You have the self-awareness to know it.
There's Blue.
Aww.
Blue is a horse.
Yeah, an entire.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's how old is he? 4 months old.
16 weeks.
16 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a beast.
He's huge.
And I thought our dog was
Almost
huge.
full height already.
Yeah.
On the subject of heartwarming TV shows, Jeremy, I'm not sure. May I interject really quick?
Please do.
Tokyo Diner Stories.
Okay.
It's just cute. It's a restaurant. It's like little anthology stories about a mysterious restaurateur in Tokyo, and it's just the stories of all the people that come into his restaurant. It's just really, really sweet.
I'm looking this up right now.
Yep.
What is it on again?
Netflix.
Holy shit, Netflix. Okay.
Yep. Or Midnight Diner Stories or Tokyo Diner Stories. It's
Midnight Diner?
It's just sweet. So, and that's really been my go-to lately is just charming stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's no darkness. I just need something fluffy.
So I'm going to ask a really dumb question. And and as an artist, you're going to understand this. Is it dubbed or is it just subtitles?
I believe, if I remember right, it's subtitles, but they're like 20-minute episodes.
Okay.
So they're nice. Like if you take a lunch break, you can sit there and watch through an episode.
Yeah. I love subtitled stuff, just to be clear, so that I don't get like a mountain of hate against me.
It's tough though when you're like this, getting work done.
Yeah. You do that like this. You're like,
Yep.
It's like it's the best neck workout on one side you can ever have.
Like this one muscle right here is huge.
It's massive.
Notice me leaning? No. Oh. No, it's I would just watch it. Well, my ex and I would watch it during like dinner breaks and things like that. But it is so sweet. It is just a nice, heartwarming little anthology story, like little slice of life stuff. So, and I love that shit. Like little slice of life things. I don't need some big epic overstory. Just give me character dramas, basically. So
people make fun of me for this, but I pretty much have subtitles on or closed captions on constantly for everything. Everything. Especially like you look at someone like Last Kingdom, like keeping track of everybody's names. Come on, like I need to see it. Exactly right. We just finished Upload on Amazon Prime.
How's that?
It's not without its issues, but it is a very interesting take on like a place where I think we're gonna get, which is basically when you die, they upload your consciousness into like this fake world and what that is. And like, there's pop-up ads and there's glitches and all these other things. It's as a technology person, like it speaks to me on that level, but it's also, they touch on this. There's a societal divide between basically the uploaders and the non-uploaders who would rather just die.
Oh, is it Altered Carbon meets The Good Place?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's very, I mean, it's pretty light and fluffy, but it is I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed it. I'd heard good things, and I enjoyed it quite. And it's like 8 or 9 episodes, or maybe it's 10 episodes total. We knocked it out in a couple of days. But like I said, it's a very like it's so different, and you can ask Nick about this too. Like I am so done with the news that like we just like I can't take it.
Why you got to put me on the spot like that, man? Like this is too serious right now. You need to calm down.
Well,
I'm not in that chat.
Well, what
I'm not either. I left the chat.
Well,
I totally left it. I was like, no, I'm not that serious.
What he's talking about is we have this Facebook chat with all of our friends, or most of our friends in it. Hannah, I have no idea why you're not in that chat.
It's the guys chat.
Okay, the guys chat, whatever you want to call it. We need to sum it up.
That's what it is. Be honest. You just don't care. You're like, yeah, no, that's dumb.
I hear about
Sam's in the chat.
Yeah,
Sam's in the chat.
Yeah. That's why I know about what happened.
And so I got so fed up with basically 3 or 4 days of just talking about what was going on. Not that there was anything wrong with talking about it, but like our chat is like where memes and inappropriate jokes go. And it was just 4 days of this nonstop whatever that I broke out a separate chat. I was like, if you want to talk about this stuff, go here. I can't take it anymore. And part of it is I think it's like this whole thing, which is like it's the virus thing and everybody's home and everything's changed, and then all this other stuff comes out. Like I can only take so much, and this has been difficult. I think for everybody in various such ways. And I thought I was handling pretty well, and then I found my limit. Very quickly.
I think we all are, right? I mean, I've had a lot of conversations with friends about wanting to help, wanting to be allies, wanting to be advocates, doing the best we can, as much as we can. And you have to truly do what you can, and then you have to be okay with sitting down and watching 26 episodes of Schitt's Creek and a night or something like you do have to be okay. And I understand that we can't and shouldn't be necessarily comfortable right now in all the ways, but we still have to be able to not have panic attacks.
Yeah, you still have to be able to function.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, certainly credit to everybody in the group and Nick, because Nick and I have had serious conversations about things or whatever. It's like everybody's mental health is so like, I think a lot of people are way more tuned in than they have been, and not everybody is okay with saying I'm not okay. Mm-hmm. And certainly in these weird times or whatever, like leaning on your friends is important. And so, it has been a challenging time, and a lot of us are lucky. We work in essential businesses, so we haven't been impacted too greatly from like a financial side. But the issue is but mentally, it's been rough. And now I have 2 kids in the house now, and how do you explain this and all these things? And luckily I'm married to a rock star, and she it helps with that stuff. But I mean, we touch base with each other in our own ways. Like sometimes we are very joking about it. Sometimes it's a very serious kind of touch base. That's what I can kind of say to everybody is touch base with people, my mom and your parents and other people around you, because a lot of people are feeling this way. And sometimes just talking about it is all the difference in the world. I mean, I knew everything was fine when they were giving me so much crap for breaking out that separate chat group for serious topics. Everything is great because all they're giving me, and Megan, I think you walked out when I was telling this, we have a Facebook chat with a bunch of people in it. And I got so sick of all the serious talk that I broke out a separate chat group for those people.
The best part is that he created the chat. He added everybody to the chat. Then he left the chat.
I'm out.
And on top of that, he said, "Can we stop?" And then 2 seconds later, I get a notification. You've been added to this chat. I'm like, what in the world? All right, I'm out. I'm done. Yeah. I'm leaving.
Yeah, and then they added me back to the chat, and then I left again, and then they left me out.
I didn't see. As soon as you added me, I had left, so I didn't realize they kept adding. That's hilarious.
Yeah, they kept adding me back. I mean, that's the thing. So that's what I can kind of say is check in with people and reach out to people and stuff. And so this will lead to my last question, which is, and we kind of touched on this too, too, because Meghan, you were way joyous about this whole time team thing. It's like, what is like in these weird times, you know, whatever, what is bringing you joy? What are the things that, you know, in the darkest times we can remember? What's something you're hanging on to? What's something you are enjoying? And I totally stolen this question from every other podcast. And I think, Jeremy, you asked this question too in some of yours. I may have stolen this from you. I don't remember. But it's a valid question. What's bringing you? There we go.
That guy right there. The big one. The little one's a little shit. But the big one has been my rock throughout all this. So I'm trying not to tear up. So.
If you don't follow Meghan for her artwork, one, you should, but two, the dog and cat pictures alone are worth the follow. Like, I'm sorry, that picture of Blue from whenever he was at whatever and he looks like he's screaming is the greatest dog photo I've ever seen.
Diesel has been so Blue, he'll get there, but Diesel, he's been my old boy, you know.
Yeah. So it's yeah. Jeremy, what's bringing you joy? What are you hanging on to?
I was listening to a podcast, and one of the response when they were asked this question, they responded with vodka and Pornhub. So I'm not going to use that one because
not wrong.
It's already been taken.
I mean,
but you know, but I will go. I'll go bourbon.
What are you drinking, Jeremy?
This is Woodinville. It's actually this is a Pacific Northwest. It's from the Washington State.
Okay.
And I had this one the first time at Seattle, at Emerald City, and I was looking forward to going back this year and getting a few more bottles to stuff in my bag to bring home.
Mm-hmm.
And I love kind of getting local whiskeys when I get the chance. And then, you know, this all happened. But I found through Caskers, I can order bourbon, whiskey, whatever I want, and they'll send it right to my house. And I would be more of an advocate of Caskers right now, except for they have half of one of my orders that has been missing for about 6 weeks. So, you know, if they make it right, I'll come on and I'll really be an advocate. But yeah.
Do you? So, I mean, obviously, you like the old fashions and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Keep talking. I'll be right back.
Yeah, this gets me excited because I know she's going to bring back something awesome. But you know, so yeah, I've been drinking a little bit. That's not really healthy. But honestly, one of the dumbest things. I mean, what is this? What do you got? Oh.
It's bourbon aged in tequila barrels.
Nice.
So it makes the best old fashioned because it has a bit of natural, like cinnamony sweetness to it.
Yeah.
I don't like it by itself necessarily, but in an old fashioned, it is amazing. The same company also makes a extra añejo tequila that if you find that shit, it is like drinking butterscotch. It's a sipping tequila.
It's what is it called again?
Baston Del Rey. And then I can show you the tequila bottle as well because it is one of my prized possessions.
Well, it actually is.
He's adding this to his next order.
What do you think I'm doing right now? Perfect. All right. Love it. So the other thing is kind of silly, but I'm trying to do a lot of like little, you know, things with my family, board game nights, various things. But I was like, I need to do something for myself. And so it's probably going to catch a lot of shit for this, but I love to cook. I love to make drinks. So I started baking. So now I'm baking. I'm doing sourdough bread, big sourdough loaves, and it brings me joy.
Good deal.
There's nothing wrong with that.
A dude that bakes is and like actually bakes, not like bakes. It's fucking amazing. So
if I stand up right now and I show you my belly, you'll understand the effect of that baking. But
people that are just like, I'm no fault to the people who are actually wanting to do this, but the folks that are just like so upset with themselves about gaining weight during this period, it's just like, guys, going through fucking societal trauma right now. Eat the brownie.
Actually,
be happy.
Thank you. And I actually immediately feel badly for even doing that, because I do think that it is important that right now that baking that and eating ice cream with my boys and all this silly stuff, that's what we need. And you know what? Like, I'm sorry, your ab circle or whatever the hell dumb thing you use is going to be there later. And if you can get out and run, if you want to lift, do however you want to do. But yes, you're right. We need to not be feeling badly for how we are reacting to this.
Yeah, you're coping with it. And at the beginning of this, thankfully it's slacked off. And at the beginning of this, I'm sure everybody here saw if you're not using this time to get your side hustle going, it wasn't the hustle, or it wasn't the lack of time, it was the lack of drive or some bullshit like that. I'm like, you stupid shit. Obviously, you've never experienced trauma before, so.
And I mean, here's the thing. You don't know me, Megan, but I work in the school system, so this whole distance learning thing it's been good, but it's also been really hard because I miss all my kids.
Right.
But I have my own child to take care of, and my own wife, and it's been great to have that time that I wouldn't have had otherwise, and that I can't recapture if I let it just go away.
Right.
So that's been really nice. I don't know. I wish it was under better circumstances for a lot of people, but I can take what I can get too.
That's just the unspoken, like the underlying thing right there is like, there are a lot of people with more privilege. There are a lot of people with less privilege right now. Just be thankful for what you do have,
absolutely.
Just enjoy it. If you've got time with your kids, no, it might not be under the best of circumstances, but you know what? You do have time with your kids.
Right. Mm-hmm. And help how you can and do what you can.
Right.
Appreciate your stuff and then try to make the world a better place. And hopefully we can all eventually, meet somewhere and have all the hugs and drinks and all the things.
I was going to say, I want to ask for two things. One, that we do this again whenever schedules work out. And two, we do this again in person at some point in the near future. We will get people on planes or whatever. I don't care. We will do this. And so I certainly appreciate everybody's time. I mean, this has gone for a while. And, Jeremy, you've done this a few times with us. You never quite know how long this is going to go because we have these conversations, but it's so it's good to see you and talk with you. It's been a minute. And Megan too. We've other than Denver, we've actually never spoken other than over a keyboard. So,
right. Yeah, you're right.
But we appreciate your time and hanging out with us and talking about everything. Problems? Is Blue escaping?
He just came in and went.
Okay. That's probably not a good thing.
Come here.
This has been like I said, this is a strange time for everybody, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this. And if there's anything we can do for you guys and stuff like that, like buy those Harley pages or something, you let me know. So, I mean, that's the thing, make sure that, if you've got projects or whatever you want to push out, we'll retweet, share, whatever you want. Like I said, your Patreons have been rolling across the bottom of the screen. So go hit those with everything. And anything in closing, anything you want to share, plug, say before we go?
Blast. I'm glad this little shit wasn't, a shit during the time. But no, this has been a lot of fun. So I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yep.
Thanks for being
here.
Great
actually seeing you.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, look, we just did it again. We waved.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about this yesterday.
The
We
waving
don't
of the
watch meetings and wave at people, but we do on these. It's awesome.
yeah.
Awesome.
Jeremy, any parting thoughts? Any wisdom?
I don't have any wisdom at all, but so, thanks. Thanks so much. Thanks for to the community, for the people that are listening to you all. Meghan, I love comics. I love making things. I love the friends that I have made over the years. My life is better for it. So,
there are far easier jobs one can have than comics. So it really is like to do comics. You have to love it.
Right.
And you have to love the people. You have to love everything about it.
I don't know about you, Meghan, but I'm going to go do my physical therapy exercises so that I can actually sit at the table for about 8 hours. So there's a lot to this thing, but we love it.
Awesome.
So the Harley pages. I'm just interjecting again. Sorry. The Harley pages were my first time doing traditional inks since 2016 when I fucked up my back from doing inking all the time.
Wow.
Like, oh God, that's what this name is again. Like,
This is why I don't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I can certainly say, Jeremy, to kind of go off your point and end on this, I can certainly say that there's probably a lot of people's lives who are better because you guys are in it as well, both with stuff that you do, who maybe have never met or spoken to you, or the people who have had the opportunity to talk with you. So this is you're good people. So
for you.
I'm like I said, I'm looking forward to doing this again sometime soon.
Got it.
Soon, and maybe with more bourbon.
Yeah. Well, thank you all, Jared, Nick, Anna, Sam, way over there. Thank you.
The man behind the curtain.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. This has been a lot of fun. It was great. Nick and Hannah, it was great meeting you. Jeremy.
Nice to meet you too.
Jared, great to see you guys again too. So
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Have a good evening. Have a good week next week. This has been a special GTN episode, After Dark episode. I'm Cav. That's Nick.
Hey,
Hannah.
Bye, I'm not evil. Nice sign off.
I had to put that in there just because you guys have seen it before.
And they don't know the story behind that either.
They really, that's the best part.
That one, right?
She has stabbed church before.
She has stabbed,
What's that?
she has stabbed our other co-host before, allegedly.
I heard like she has stabbed church, and I forgot that was his name for a second. I'm like, who the fuck stabs a church? Oh.
So, if you've been watching, you can find us on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube now. Also, you can find us there, gatherers, like us, things like that. We're going to try and do more of this fun stuff. But Meghan, Jeremy, thank you again. Everybody, have a good night.
Thank you. See you later.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Bye.